I'm going to read to you from Wonderful Life, and we're continuing in Chapter 5, which is titled Possible Worlds. And we're considering the question about if life's tape were replayed, would the giant terror birds known as diatryma have potentially won out over mammals? And we're going to explore that in the next section. So in all these speculations about replaying life's tape, we lament our lack of any controlled experiment. We cannot instigate the actual replay, and our planet provided only one run-through. But the crucial Eocene pivot between birds and mammals provides more and more different evidence. For once, our recalcitrant and complex planet actually performed a proper experiment for us. This particular tape did have a replay in South America, and this time the birds won, or at least held the mammals to a respectable draw. South America was an island continent, a kind of super Australia, until the Isthmus of Panama arose just a few million years ago. Most animals, usually considered as distinctively South American, jaguars, llamas, and tapirs, for example, are North American migrants to the post-Isthmian arrival. An isthmus is a long strip of land that connects two larger bodies of land. The Isthmus of Panama is the connector between North and South America. Okay. Ooh, we got a picture drawn of a terror bird. There we go. The great native fauna of South America is largely gone, or surviving as a poor, if fascinating remnant of armadillos, sloths, and the Virginia opossum, among others. No placental carnivores inhabited this giant ark. Most popular books tell us that the native South American carnivores were all marsupials, the so-called boraniids. They often neglect that another prominent group, the phororhacids, or giant ground birds, fared just as well, if not better. Phororhacids also sported large heads and short, stout necks, but were not closely related to diatryma. In South America, birds had a second and separate try as dominant carnivores, and this time they won, as suggested in Charles R. Knight's famous reconstruction of a phororhacid standing in triumph over a mammalian victim. And there's the phororhacid bird standing in triumph over its mammalian prey, in this depiction by Charles R. Knight. In our smug, placental-centered parochialism, now placenta means, the placenta is the thing that attaches to the belly button in mammals that are not marsupials and not monotremes. It's the mammals that hold the fetus in the mother's womb for a much longer period of time, and they are born more fully developed. So, placentals: dogs, cats, people, horses, whales, giraffes, rats, bats, things like that. Okay, in our smug, placental-centered parochialism, we may say that birds could triumph in South America only because marsupials are inferior to placentals and did not offer the kind of challenge that conquered predaceous ground birds in Europe and North America. But can we be so sure? Boraniids could also be large and fierce, ranging to bear size and including such formidable creatures as Thylacosmilus, the marsupial saber-tooth. They were cool looking. We might also sneer and point out that in any case, phororhacids quickly snuffed it along with boraniids as soon as superior placentals flooded over the rising isthmus. But this common saga of progress will not wash either. G.G. Simpson, our greatest expert on the evolution of South American mammals, wrote in one of his last books, "It has sometimes been said that these and other flightless South American birds survived because there were long no placental carnivores on that continent. That speculation is far from convincing. Most of the phororhacids became extinct before, only a straggler or two after placental carnivores reached South America. Many of the bororhainids that lived among these birds for many millions of years were highly predaceous. The phororhacids were more likely to kill than be killed by mammals. We must conclude, I think, that South America does represent a legitimate replay, round 2 for the birds. General patterns that illustrate contingency. This story of worms and birds, the first part graced with the sweep of history from Burgess times to now, the second, with the virtues of repetition by natural experiment, moves contingency from a general statement about history into the realm of tangible things. A single story can establish plausibility by example, but it cannot make a complete case. The argument of this book needs 2 final supports. First, a statement about general properties of life's history that reinforce the claims of contingency, and second, a chronology of examples illustrating the power of contingency not for selected and specific cases alone, but for the most general pathways and probabilities of life on our planet. This section and the next present these final supports for my argument. An epilogue for an arresting fact then completes the book. Now, here's something I want to say, Devin. I really like this little section because it describes some structures of how one can use evidence and clear arguments to make a case for something. And I know that's a thing you're dealing with in your classes, how to make supporting evidence for statements and so forth. So I think it's a good example, and I wanted to name that. If geological time had operated exactly as Darwin envisioned, contingency would still reign. And perhaps a bit more of life's general pattern thrown into the realm of predictability under broad principles. Remember that Darwin viewed the history of life through his controlling metaphors of competition and the wedge. The world is full of species, wedges crowded together on a log, and new forms can enter ecological communities only by displacing others, popping the wedges out. Displacement proceeds by competition under natural selection, and the better adapted species win. Darwin felt that this process, operating in the micro-moment of the here and now, could be extrapolated into countless millennia of geological time to yield the overall pattern of life's history. For example, in Chapter 10 of The Origin of Species, Darwin labored mightily, if incorrectly in retrospect, to show that extinctions are not rapid and simultaneous across large differences of form and environment, but that each major species peters out slowly, its decline linked with the rise of a superior competitor. And there's an asterisk, so let's go to the asterisk statement. Mass extinctions do not negate the principle of natural selection, for environments can change too fast and too profoundly for organic response. But coordinated dyings do run counter to Darwin's preference for seeing the large and the small, and for viewing organic competition, group by separate group, as the primary source of life's overall pattern. Okay, back to the text. But by better adapted, Darwin only meant more suited to changing local environments, not superior in any general anatomical sense. The pathways to local adaptation are as likely to restrict as to enhance the prospects for long-term success, simplification in parasites, over-elaboration in peacocks. Moreover, nothing else is as quirky and unpredictable, both in our metaphors and on our planet, as trends in climate and geography. Continents fragment and disperse. Oceanic circulation changes, rivers alter their course, mountains rise, estuaries dry up. If life works more by tracking environment than by climbing up a ladder of progress, then contingency should reign. I assert that the powerful role of contingency in Darwin's system not as a logical corollary of his theory, but as an explicit theme central to his own life and work. Darwin invoked contingency in a fascinating way as his primary support for the fact of evolution itself. He embedded his defense in a paradox. One might think that the best evidence for evolution would reside in those exquisite examples of optimal adaptation presumably wrought by natural selection. The aerodynamic perfection of a feather, or the flawless mimicry of insects that look like leaves or sticks. Such phenomena provide our standard textbook examples for the power of evolutionary modification. The mills of natural selection may operate slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. Yet Darwin recognized that perfection cannot provide evidence for evolution because optimality covers the tracks of history. If feathers are perfect, they may as well have been designed from scratch by an omnipotent God as from previous anatomy by a natural process. Darwin recognized that the primary evidence for evolution must be sought in quirks, oddities, and imperfections that lay bare the pathways of history. Whales, with their vestigial pelvic bones, must have descended from terrestrial ancestors with functional legs. Pandas, to eat bamboo, must build an imperfect thumb from a nubbin of a wrist bone, because carnivorous ancestors lost the requisite mobility in their first digit. Many animals of the Galapagos differ only slightly from neighbors in Ecuador, though the climate of these relatively cool volcanic islands diverges profoundly from the conditions on the adjacent South American mainland. If whales retained no trace of their terrestrial heritage, if pandas bore perfect thumbs, if life on the Galapagos neatly matched the curious local environments, then history would not inhere in the productions of nature. But contingencies of just history do shape our world, and evolution lies exposed in the panoply of structures that have no other explanation than the shadow of their past. Thus, contingency rules even in Darwin's model of extrapolation from organic competition within local communities chock full of species. However, an exciting intellectual movement of the last quarter century has led us to recognize that nature is not so smoothly and continuously ordered. The large does not emerge from the small simply by adding more time. Several large-scale patterns based on the nature of macroevolution and the history of based on the nature of macroevolution, macro being large, and the history of environments, impose their own signatures on nature's pathways, and also disrupt, reset, and redirect whatever may be accumulating through time by the ticking of processes in the immediate here and now. Most of these patterns strongly reinforce the theme of contingency. See Gould, 1985. Let us consider just two. All right, we're going to stop there That's the cliffhanger. We're going to consider just two. Oh my God. I love you. I hope you sleep tight. And I hope the chappies don't bite. Don't let the chappies bite. I'm sending you some kisses. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Sleep tight, Devin. Sleep tight, Devin. I love you.